The need to read and react to consumers faster have prompted apparel companies to re-examine every aspect of their business. Today we're joined with Dustin Bowersox of color management company Datacolor, as well as Andrew Fraser of Mocean, a private label swimwear company, to discuss the role that color plays in speed to market. Thank you for joining us today, guys.
Thank you.
So Dustin, you work with brands and retailers that source all over the world. What are some of the challenges you notice to working with global supply chains?
I think the challenge that brands and retailers face is identifying expertise from a mill base around the world and identifying which suppliers are capable of delivering their quality expectations. It's very common for a single garment to be comprised of several different fabrications that are sourced regionally, and then it's up to the cut and sew vendors to bring that together. Obviously, that layers in a challenge of color cohesiveness and identifying what it's going to take to execute that product on quality is a real challenge for the vendor and brand.
So with so many global partners interacting with one another and people wanting to really embrace the speed to market strategy today, what are you hearing from your retail partners?
The consumer has an expectation where when they see something, they can purchase it. Gone are the days where fashion shows in Milan or in Paris would slowly trickle down to retailers and brands for the general public to purchase. That instant one-click buy approach has really placed pressure on brands to diminish the amount of time it takes from design to execution, with even some savvy brands trying to develop a strategy of cycleless type product development where they're just constantly responding to trend versus the historical kind of 4-cycle per year model.
Andrew, even with a focus on speed, it appears that most of these apparel companies out there today are having difficulty slashing their calendars. They're not really any faster when it comes to supply chain. So how could effective color management help them in achieving speed to market?
Starting right the first time, making sure that your color standard that you've picked is achievable, and then utilizing electronic digital instrumentation to allow that transfer of information across the world in minutes. Being able to then take that information, download it into a dye mill, come up with a dye formulation, and execute that color on the fabrication within days versus what 20 years ago took weeks.
But is it that, are companies today still using the old FedEx model, or do they have these digital tools at their disposal?
Most of the major retailers and brands have these instruments available to them. Unfortunately, there's been a gap in the education process. A lot of the people that used to know how to use them have left the industry or retired, and the new people that have come in are not familiar with them, so what do? They resort back to what they've done always, which is cut swatches, put it in a FedEx envelope, and send it overseas.
Piggybacking off of that, Dustin, achieving speed to market is clearly it's a company-wide effort. It's not just limited to the sourcing and supply chain departments. What can organizations do to increase efficiency and to achieve that desired speed to market strategy?
From a color perspective, it's important to have, as Andrew mentioned, the expertise in the color kind of theory and color execution is diminished from the brand perspective. There is a real lack of resources who have that knowledge. But for those brands to include those color team members, have a seat at the table during those cross-functional meetings during the design phase, sitting with the merchants and the product development team, the sourcing folks, having the color team in that part of the process to be able to vet proposed color palettes and fabric combinations, propose potential mill partners who might execute those best. It's critical to take advantage of their expertise up front versus the other side, which is communicating 6 weeks later that in fact that design selection would not be executed the way the designer had initially intended.
So, Andrew, often at times the designer wants to create something, but it's not achievable, and that could really affect the delivery of the product to market. Can you give us an example in your experience of when poor color management has undermined the speed to market strategy that the brand may have?
Absolutely. When you talk about developing a color and trend, right? A designer will pick a color that is trend right and they love. Unfortunately, a lot of times what they pick is unachievable on other fiber contents. So it's very difficult to take a nylon color, which is dyed with acid dyes, and translate it to a polyester or a cotton that is dyed with disperse or reactive dyes. So that would be an example where you would proceed down that road and not be able to achieve it, and you don't find that out immediately. It takes days and sometimes weeks before the realization is we're never going to hit this color.
So they get the protos back, the samples back, they're not happy, they resample again, and just the whole speed to market strategy is just thrown out the window there.
Correct, yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you, appreciate it.